Most beloved sons and daughters of God, I come representing the Lords of Karma. I come representing Almighty God. I stand in your midst to deliver to you a very important release of the sacred fire. But I must ask that there be silence in this hall, and therefore will those who have the coughs that have been mentioned by the messenger now remove themselves so that we may deliver our address. We bless you for your understanding of the delicate thread of contact twixt the hierarchy and the messenger, and for your understanding that all that we desire to release this day is somewhat taxing to the vehicles of the messenger, and we desire the optimum conditions to deliver to you the light that is necessary for your understanding of the complexity of world conditions. We have made many studies throughout this year, and our deliberations concerning the dispensation of light and concerning the uses and misuses of power is before us. I come to deliver the law of righteousness. I come to deliver an equation of light. I come centering in the will of your heart flame, and I am in the mantle of my beloved Saint Germain. The Lords of Karma must balance opportunity for light, for expansion, and opportunity for the balance of karma, opportunity for mankind to receive the teachings of the ascended masters, opportunity for the demonstration of the law. We must consider justice for the fallen ones as well as for the innocent children of God, who in their pursuit of the laggard generation have quickly lost a great deal of innocence in this generation. Ours is to consider the abortion of life and to determine how to adjust the cycles of karma, that these souls, these Christs from out the great central sun, for whom you have called for so long, and who have been sent to you, might re-enter the birth canal and be born to serve their cosmic purpose. Beloved ones, to adjust and adjust again the cycles for the appearance of the light bearers is one of the greatest challenges to the Lords of Karma. Greater than any other is the reallocation of allotment of energy for the millions of souls who are aborted annually. And we project into the future, as do those among your public servants who analyze the cycles of population and of world and national conditions in the decades ahead. It is clear that with the abortion of life, ere 20 years have passed, there will be many more individuals of older age in this nation than there are of the younger generation to support not only the workforce and the armies and the navies and all those who are necessary to continue education, but also to support those who can no longer work because of age. Such an imbalance in the karmic pattern and the mandala of the earth is at stake in this hour that we can scarcely address ourselves to world conditions or render a report without prefacing our report by stating that this condition is that which makes difficult the resolving of all other conditions upon the planetary body. Add to it the fact that the many wars that have taken place in this century have also dislocated life and the plan of life, and you can see that in summation we must say that Earth and her evolutions are becoming farther and farther out of alignment with the will of God, even while a remnant of light bearers that appear on the screen of life as a golden thread lining of all of this. There is then a remnant, the golden thread as the golden lining of world consciousness, of souls who sense the darkening consciousness and the removal of this life wave from the center of the will of God. These souls are accelerating God consciousness in greater measure than that has been accomplished by a group of souls in many thousands of years. And so it is that the juxtaposition of light and of darkness presents greater light, greater darkness, and again, the problem in the center of which way elemental life, which way humanity. We come with great trust in our hearts for the chelas of the ascended masters and a mounting determination which we observe as manifest in more practical action for the victory, a more practical determination and a more practical involvement. This represents a great stepping up of light and the stepping down of that light into more dense levels of consciousness and into the daily life of millions. The exposure of the teachings, the exposure of the messenger, and the exposure of the disciples to more and more people is a factor which has weighed heavily in certain dispensations that have been granted by the Cosmic Council. Beloved ones, in this connection, may I remind you that a single candle may illumine a vast darkness, and therefore always as we judge, it is not numbers, but the quality of the purity of life, the quality of the purity of life in the single individual. Witness the great light that came to earth through Jesus Christ and Gautama Buddha. Witness then that as we see this same light being born within you, we can adjust planetary karma, we can adjust planetary cycles, but not all. And here is the dilemma, that the judgment is meted upon those who have misused the light, that the fallen ones are coming to the judgment, and that mankind, who have sold themselves to the fallen ones, will also be called to the judgment in the same spiral. And thus, in the midst of drought, in the midst of imbalance in the nature kingdom, in the midst of imbalance in the economy, we find that souls of light have a vast opportunity to accelerate progress on the path of initiation. And thus, our God has preserved the open door intact for a season. And as Gautama Buddha has brought the message of the 10-year dispensation, so then we ourselves, in making our determination and in deliberating, also consider that this 10-year expanse of time and space will also be filled with a greater and greater number of souls coming into the awareness of the teaching and applying that law. We say this for we see at inner levels the inner vows that people have made. Apropos this, beloved ones, let us state that the more practical the teaching can be delivered in lectures and in the written word, the more individuals who must rely on this contact will be led into the flame. I ask you then, one and all, who have talent to speak and to write, to deliver information on the teachings and on specific subjects of social issues, problems of government, and to put this in writing in the most simple and practical form. Let there be formed committees of those who are a part of the great field of keepers of the flame with many talents, and let these committees begin to organize and to sort the information on social issues which we already have given forth. Many statements, such as the statement made by the messenger on the conspiracy and by General Keegan on the subject of America's defense, must be put together, organized, researched, and then become the topic for discussion and for action. The Lords of Karma stand behind you, and we demand that you take forthright action. There is no reason why you ought to lack courage if your leaders lack courage. When you have information in hand which is documented by an individual who has held one of the most important and key posts in the military service of America, I tell you, beloved ones, it is time that you go personally to your senators, your congressmen, your representatives at the state, local, and national level. Present the information, present the cassettes, present the law, and state. We are the people. We are the government of this nation. If you refuse to expose this lie and expose this truth, we will organize and we will see to it that in the next election, your name is written as one who has refused to look at the facts necessary for the defense of America. Beloved ones, this is a part of the coming revolution. It is not enough to suggest. It is not enough to send a letter. It is time to say, Almighty God has vested the power within us, and we have transferred that power to our elected representatives. When our elected representatives cease to represent our will, then we must recall these representatives and recall our free will which we have transferred into their hands. Beloved ones, it is time for you to amass a coalition of light bearers from every walk of life on this single issue of America's defense. For we observe the record, and we know that ere a decade has passed, the Soviet Union herself will place herself in position militarily in a more aggressive stance than she has held for many decades. Beloved ones, it will be the most aggressive position that she has ever held since the communist takeover of Russia. And beloved hearts, to gain such a measure of independence and of ability comes entirely because of the cowardice of the leaders not only of this nation, but of all of the Western powers. All that will come as debacle and degradation upon this earth will be laid at the doorstep of those who today are in positions of power and yet do not read the handwriting on the wall, ignore the information that is given to them, and keep on smiling before an ignorant public. Beloved ones, therefore, from this angle, the situation in the world today is extremely grave. We must inform you that there is no way that the Lords of Karma can back the President of the United States. There is not a single decision that has been made based on an absolute reality or an acknowledgement of the envoys of our brotherhood which we personally have sent to the Oval Office with this and other vital information which is not yet disclosed to you or to your messenger. The turning aside of those who come representing our hierarchy must be seen as the sign of the turning away of hierarchy itself. Beloved ones, we are not for or against persons, but we back individuals who embody principles of cosmic law, who have the flame of courage, and who have the vitality to truly give their life for their country. There is an inner requirement for one who will hold office in this nation, and it is fearlessness before every threat. It is fearlessness, and it is the requirement that Jesus has set forth, that he who seeks to save his life will lose it. The individual who holds the lives of millions of Americans within his hands cannot be one who fears to lose his life, though he send many a youth upon the battlefield to the fodder of war. Beloved hearts of light, I come then with an indictment of many leaders and not one. And I come with a mandate for the people. I take to you then, and I deliver to you the inner scroll, that is the report of the Lords of Karma. It contains detailed information concerning many areas which are too lengthy to be enumerated. The question of the Panama Canal, the question of Cuban troops in Africa, the question of rights of dissidents in the Soviet Union, the question of the manipulation of the economies of the nations, the question of child abuse and its ignorance, the question of the Supreme Court and its members who yet have failed to proclaim the right to life of the unborn child, and on and on and on. The list is too numerous, but the darkness grows, and the challenging of that darkness must come by your own systematic examination of the problems at hand, for you already have at your fingertips enough ascended master law and enough awareness of conditions that you yourselves can enter into the mainstream of action for the coming revolution. The worst thing that you can do is to do nothing. And the best thing that you can do is to first organize yourselves and to see where a certain quotient of your energy spent for action will do the most good, where your voice will count the most. It is important that you align yourselves with individuals who are already taking a stand for the teachings of Christ and of the Great White Brotherhood, and thereby partake of their own political acumen and their expertise in these subjects. For many, many fine souls have a much greater awareness than many of you, and you ought to benefit then by the work that they have done and their research. And whether or not they are aware of it, they ought to be the beneficiaries of your decrees and your contact with hierarchy. Let there be an interchange, and let there not be a burdening of these souls with too much teaching. For after all, it is action, and the action at hand, that is important. If we can agree with many light bearers across the spectrum of religion and politics and science on single points at issue, we can make our mark of victory. But if all must be of a single persuasion, then America, alas, will remain divided, and more so the other nations of the earth. Beloved hearts of light, I address you concerning your own spiritual evolution and your own fearlessness. Wherever individuals have compromised their character, there is a weakening of the energies that flow in the spine. The spinal fluid has a corresponding fluid of light, and the rising of the caduceus cannot occur except this spiritual energy be present. When we speak of people who are spineless, who are weak, we are speaking of those who have not the ray and the thrust of Alpha to keep them determined and filled with the power and the light that would enable them to challenge all darkness. This is what has happened to the leadership in America. The misuses of sex, of the sacred fire, the love of money, the love of power, ambition, all of these have weakened the individual and the power of his voice to speak the word of God. Your leaders fear to challenge even Castro of Cuba, who is powerless to do anything against this nation except power be given unto him by your leaders. And yet this same one has extended troops to the continent of Africa, to the great desecration of light bearers who are fighting for their countries and for their soil and for their liberty. Beloved ones, there is great lack of courage in the Senate, in the Congress, in the cabinet. The lack of courage is so great that day by day, these spineless ones, these lightless ones, are ushering in great crisis. A crisis far greater than you can imagine or that I can enumerate today. Suffice it to say that one by one the individuals in these posts must be replaced, and light bearers of every religious persuasion who have the inner conviction of their own potential to be one with God and to serve God must come forward, must replace these individuals. There must be an organization, and there must be the backing of the sons and daughters of God. Let the light go forth from this altar as a lightning spark of encouragement to all who work and who are not weary in their sacred labor. Let the lightning of divine love go forth and consume the demons of fanaticism and of hatred that have burdened souls of light in their attempts to serve. Countering as they have again and again the darkness and the deception of the fallen ones, it is understandable, although not excusable, that they have become burdened themselves by their own reactions. Saint Germain stands beside me, the champion of light, the champion of world freedom. There are a number of light bearers in every nation whom he personally sponsors and on whose behalf he reports to the lords of karma for great dispensations of mercy. Without the sponsorship of Saint Germain, the voice of these individuals would not be heard. In Russia and in China, in every land, there are devotees of Saint Germain. Beloved ones, for us to behold the great light that is being held upon earth, because, beloved Saint Germain has taken his stand, it is a joy, it is an encouragement. The lords of karma desire then to give commendation to Saint Germain, to others of the ascended masters, and to their chelas. We commend all for your steadfastness and for your decrees, and as I have said, for the practical nature of your service. We ask you to take note, as Linello has pointed out to you, on Christmas Eve, of the change in the force field of the Western Hemisphere in the absence of the Mother. We take from our hearts then and place within your hearts a special lodestone of energy whereby you will be keyed to hold the balance for this continent and this hemisphere as the messenger journeys to add light to another place where souls of light desire her coming. We appeal to Syria and to Cuzco to increase now the stepping up of factors in the retreat at Suva, so that the balance of planetary forces may be held, and so that darkness does not enter as a wedge, either within this government, this nation, or this community of light bearers. Do not underestimate then the balance of power, wisdom, and love that is held by this community. or by the messenger. Be diligent during this hour of the cycle's turning of Capricorn unto Aquarius, for the very delicate cycle that comes forth from the central sun is for more than that which meets the eye, and we will continue to lower into manifestation energies for the dissolution and the disintegration of large force fields of darkness that are within the cities of America and the world. These we will lower gradually into manifestation through the stumping tours, through the coming conferences, through your own lecture programs, through your own expansion projects, which we are most gratified to report have increased the light consciousness of America and other nations measurably so. It is the desire of the lords of karma to see the souls of light from birth through the 12th grade in high school, who have been selected throughout the earth this year, cut free to be a part of the community of Camelot and to be a part of Montessori International. Mother Mary requests a special vigil for the children of light and for their parents, who often have not the insight or the foresight to allow them to attend. We ask for the children and the young adults of Montessori to set aside the half hour of evening invocations as calls to the Cosmic Mother through Astrea for the protection of these souls who are truly an inner part of the mandala of light and yet are not physically present. Those who have received dispensations and who could be here this year on this day are double the amount which are here at this time. There is no reason for them not to be here except the opposition to their coming has not been dealt with seriously by the faculty, the present parents and students assembled. Do not underestimate the need for yourselves to become a central sun magnet for these children. And do not underestimate the need for parents, faculty, and students to consider themselves a trinity of light action, carrying the torch of Gautama Buddha, passed to the messenger for the victory of enlightenment through education in this age. I ask this trinity of world servers to also consider calls for the arresting of the spirals of darkness that covers education in America through the NEA and through individuals self-styled part of the band of fallen ones who have used education as a means to further their socialist and Marxist aims. These terms are misnomers, for they are Luciferian aims, they are Antichrist aims, and they come in the guise of liberal educational trends that neglect the inner development of the soul of the child. The lords of karma would point out that although we have reiterated the law on many occasions, some have forgotten that without specific calls on specific subjects, we are not permitted to enter in. And therefore, to be informed is of utmost importance. To read the periodicals which are published by devotees of freedom, patriots of America, as well as to read those that are published by the left-wing press, thus to gain a spectrum of all views. And as we have said, it is important that you know the regard for America by nations outside of the United States and by the media outside of the United States. For you have already been shielded from far more than is necessary, and this is a part of the manipulation of the internationalists who govern in all the nations and who are keeping the people of America ignorant of those forces that are diligently at work to tear down and to destroy. Blessed hearts, I report to you that although things have been smoothed over in Manhattan, in the city of New York, and in the state of New York, that focal point of the third eye chakra of America, is in dire economic distress. The dishonesty of the fallen ones that has been recently exposed as they have put upon the people these certificates in New York City, these bonds that have been issued, is a frightful mismanagement of the flame of leadership. This leadership manifesting both in the government and in business and in the banking firms is seen once again as the wolves in sheep's clothing who have absolutely no heart for the people, but have manipulated them through investment schemes, through political and social actions for many a decade now. And thus the people of New York are bearing a tremendous burden, for over the city of New York is the Temple of the Sun and the Temple of Liberty, and yet the fall of New York as Babylon the Great has also been prophesied in the book of Revelation, and the staying of the hand of that prophecy has come because a few light bearers and a handful of keepers of the flame, as sons and daughters of liberty, have determined to roll back the darkness of the money beast and of the mass manipulators of organized crime at every level of operation in that city. Of all cities on earth, then, this day, New York hangs in the balance as to whether or not she will actually survive, or whether she will be the opening for the pulling down of the entire nation economically. Beloved ones, there is more than meets the eye to the crisis in that city. I ask you then to project your visualizations as you give your Astrayas and your calls to Cyclopeia, and especially your violet flame invocations, that that city might receive the balancing flow of your light, and that our keepers of the flame there might also have reinforcement. And we desire to send more light bearers to that city, as it is deemed wise by the Mother of the Flame, and by those who are able to project the needs of the many cities, and especially of Camelot. We cannot predict that the city itself will survive, for this has not yet been determined by the council or by the lords of karma. But what we can determine is this, that unless there be greater light pumped into the city, even as billions of dollars have been pumped into the economy of the city, there is very little chance that it can survive as it should as a city of light. The great concern of the lords of karma is that this city represents the chakra so necessary to the opening of the vision of the third eye for America and for the city four square. Because of the economic situation and the manipulation of the bankers, Wall Street, the Illuminati, and those who have centered in New York, it becomes a grave question of tackling at the root the entire matter of the supply, the money system, and the banking system of the United States. We are encouraged that many light bearers see the need to prepare themselves in law, in economics, in international finance, in government. For when the challenge comes, as come it must, to the entrenched forces of the fallen ones, it will require rings of light bearers who have both the maximum training and understanding in this octave and the maximum contact with our brotherhood. Beloved ones, this confrontation must not be far away. It cannot be postponed, for if it is postponed too long, it will happen that the fallen ones will have gained their ground before the light bearers have had the opportunity, or should I say seize the opportunity, to overthrow them before they have finally hatched their final schemes for world takeover and for a one-world government and a one-world economy. Beloved hearts, the grace of God be upon you. We have not come to burden you. We have come to give you light on necessary subjects. Systematically take up each subject one by one. Consider where you must position yourself in this battle for righteousness, and then concentrate your energies with the right groups, the right people, and especially those who are already representing you in the form of government. Blessed ones, your letters are effective. They are but a first step. They are the forerunner of yourself. The Lords of Karma release 7 rays for the intensification of your 7 chakras in the practical matter of tying your life streams, your consciousness, to those key points and to those key individuals who heretofore have held the reins of power by money, by position, by social standing, by family, and by darkness. We give to you then a certain acceleration of being, whereby you can enter into a spherical consciousness of world conditions, be informed, and take action on the information that you have. Let none underestimate his role in this great drama, and let none underestimate the need to attend at least 1 quarter at Summit University before you take on the world. You may know the points of the law, but you need the transfer of light that comes by a saturation of your being in the aura of the Ascended Masters, the Messenger, and the community. We have left no stone unturned for your deliverance and God's deliverance through you of the captives in this age. See that you do likewise, and all will go according to plan. For there is an order, and there is a tide in the affairs of men. Taken at its crest, it leads on to victory. Hold your heads high, but do not be gazers of the sky. Hold them firm and steady, and with a glance look up at the hosts of the Lord, but do not take your steadfast and steady gaze from the world scene. For day by day and hour by hour, the arch deceivers attempt to move in, to infiltrate, to tear down, to foment violence, terrorism, and unrest, and to put through the governing bodies of the earth measures that are distinctly anti-Christ, always in the moment when attentions are in other directions, on the holidays, on the conclusion of Congress. Thus the recent measures on abortion, pushed through at the last minute, have gone counter to the decree of light which we have sent forth. All in an instant and in a moment, when not enough light bearers place the full momentum of their life streams upon that particular vote and that particular moment. It is not our desire to make you tense, but we would remind you not to allow yourselves to become so loose that you are not able on the instant to summon cosmic forces, to make your invocations, and to challenge darkness. Be alert. Listen with your inner ear. Listen to the warning. Listen to the prompting. And listen to the singing of the birds. For the birds whisper the call of light, the teaching of the brotherhood, and they also come with the warning when your soul must take action or take flight. Listen to the song of Camelot, which the angels sing in your heart. Listen to the cry for life. Listen for the whirlwind action of the coming of the Lord's Spirit. And listen for the sound of your alarm clocks as you rise on time to give your invocations and to start your day with a mighty thrust for victory. I am Portia, in the heart of Saint Germain. I stand with the lords of karma as we stand for Earth and her evolutions this day. I bid you good evening.